All right, welcome back to another episode. And I am just really honored to have Chaitali, and your last name is Shaw. Is it Shaw?
That's right, Chaitali Shah.
Okay. Um, with us, and you might already know that Chaitali's probably not from South Dakota because she has a little accent, and it's not a Southern accent either. I don't know. Maybe it's a Southern accent for India, but Mumbai's right in the middle, right? So Shatali lives in Mumbai, India, and I've had the pleasure of being introduced to Shatali, I think through Partha, wasn't it?
That's right.
And heck, I haven't had Partha on the podcast. And Partha and Shatali are kind of, I don't think kind of, they're at the forefront of bringing financial life planning, the interior of money, financial therapy, whatever we'd like to call it, to India. So they are real setters in that regard to India. And I thought it would be really interesting to chat with Shatali and get a little bit of her journey, how she has discovered financial therapy in India, what the state is, the differences, the cultural differences that we talk about a lot, but in the well, we do have cultural differences, of course, in the U.S., and there's always cultural differences in how money's approached. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about that. So welcome, Shatali.
Thank you, Rick. And it's an honor to be on your talk show and podcast. So thank you very much for inviting me. Um, like as you mentioned, I'm from Mumbai. I'm born and brought up in South Mumbai. I come from a pretty humble background, but I was raised in a very rich surrounding. And if I could say, dare say, South Mumbai is what Manhattan is to USA. That's what South Mumbai is to India, because we are the financial capital of India, and we have our Wall Street pretty close to my house where I live. Um, as I mentioned, I stay in South Mumbai, where the exposure to the financial market I got at a very young age. My schooling has been very normal, and I grew up in a joint family. That's the culture in India, where you grow up in a joint family. We were living with our grandparents. Um, and so the upbringing is very simple and very humble. Um, and yeah, I think I've been privileged enough to get the best of the education that anyone would want in India, because I was right at the hub and the heart of where everything was happening. Um, and we are like two sisters. I have an elder sister and myself. And so for my father, you know, he treated us like he would treat his son. And we were exposed to the capital market, and he never discriminated or thought that we are girls. And, he never stopped us from learning or education or working or anything while we were growing up. So
Which I,
that's
I want
like,
to bring out, Chitali, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's remarkable for India,
yes,
right? Where
yes.
there can be a what do I want to call it? A discrimination against women, where the
Yes,
son
indeed.
is favored, and maybe it would be more normal. Well, I'll teach my son about finance, but I don't need to teach my daughters about finance because they will get married and a man will take care of
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And perhaps that's why, I have always seen to it that I update myself about anything new happening in the financial world. Um, uh, and at a very young age, my sister and I were, helping my dad with his portfolio. Very clerical work to start with, to be honest. He would be like, go kind of deposit the dividend check that we have, or that was the time when we were in college that in India, the transition was happening from physical form of shares to demat form of shares. So we had to kind of completely dematerialize the entire portfolio. So again, that's what I and my sister used to do for him. We would fill in the forms, go to the bank, to the demat account that was open, and you know, converted into dematerialized form. So, what I'm trying to say out here is that at a very young age, I got the exposure and I learned the importance of financial literacy. So that has helped me to a great extent. In fact, Rick, I would like to share one more incident. When we were in college, we used to get pocket money. And my dad came out with this scheme for us where he wanted to help us understand the importance of savings. So he would say, out of your pocket money, you save 500 rupees, and I'll give you another 500 rupees, and that 1,000 rupees we will invest somewhere. So that was an amazing experience and a feeling of, making money out of money at a very young age for us. And he'd invested that in a post office scheme that was very famous that time in India. And yeah, I think that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So my childhood was like really, really perfect, if I dare say so. But things turned around when I was 21, and I lost my dad that time. And my eldest sister is extremely creative, and she started focusing on her career, and financial decision taking fell on me. At 21, when you're asked to take financial decisions, you are like completely, you don't want to go wrong. So you will not leave a single leaf unturned, a stone unturned. Sorry, correct me. But so that's why I started educating myself on mutual funds and insurance and research, equity research. And to my luck, as I mentioned that, my neighborhood was pretty rich. So I had all my friends who were doing their CA, chartered accountancy course, or they're doing their masters in finance or MBA in finance. So our conversations would be like, oh, you can't invest the money in fixed deposit completely because that will not beat, the inflation. So, and this is the time when the interest rate in India was around 9 to 10%.
Mm.
But nevertheless, when calamity fell on us and I had to take these hard decisions for my family, I had that wisdom of not putting all the money in fixed deposit because for a couple of years, for us, it was more like about survival for us, whether what we are left with, will we survive or no? Uh, but in 2, 3 years, I figured out that it's not about survival, but about sustaining the lifestyle which we already had. Because obviously we had things changed for us, right? When we lost the main earning member in my house. I and my sister were very young, and we just starting with our careers. My mom is a very smart lady. She's done her master's in chemistry, but she never got the opportunity to work because within a year or two after her graduation, she got married, and then she never had to work or she didn't want to work, both put together.
Mhm.
And she took care of the family. That was what she did in her life. So yeah, and then when at 21, I had to take decision. I had everyone coming and telling me, put all the money here, put all the money there, and I had to be very clear that whatever decision I take is going to mean what life I'm going to have in the future. And I was wise enough not to spend it all. I was wise enough to take a little risk. And that time, Rick, I got to know about the importance of allocation of money. And since it was my mom's fund that I had to handle, I gave a very smaller amount, about 20, 25% to equity, and the rest I kept it there. So you've seen the Indian capital market, you would know how it's grown over the years. I was able to beat inflation. I was able to take care of all the main expenses that I got, beat my elder sister's wedding, beat health issues that came in my family. And then after a point, it was about growth. I could travel the way I used to travel in my childhood because when I was growing up, my dad loved traveling. And we used to travel kind of we would have long trips with a lot of friends of his in large groups, and that's thing started again for me. I started traveling again. For initially 2 3 years, it was tough, but then I turned it around. And as capital market was growing, as mutual funds was growing, I think I managed to beat the inflation for sure. And for me, then it was more about what next. And that's when in the lockdown, as you mentioned, that we know each other through Partha, I came across his course in India, where he was reaching out to women, uh, training them for getting more actively involved in finance. And I thought, this is the thing for me. I mean, this is what I'm doing. And maybe the emotional part is something I've never explored.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
like
that,
you're the poster child for empowering women, all right, and
oh my
money
God,
in India, right? Um,
that's,
because you came into this definitely from the money side, definitely from the finance side. At 21, you're studying mutual funds and the equity markets.
yes,
Um, I mean, yeah, I'm so struck that you and your father are having these discussions around money. You're very involved in money. I mean, very unusual. I think that's unusual for the US.
yes.
That must have been just
Okay.
mind blowing, revolutionary in India. How he,
So yeah, so I get where you're coming from. So in India, basically, each state has a different culture. And I'm from a state called Gujarat. And Gujaratis are supposedly very entrepreneur sort of people. They are called the banyas, if I can use that term. That basically means traders and businessmen. So we do have a little bit of where we think we believe that money is important. We believe that saving is important. Sometimes, like getting into your money scripts that I got introduced to Partha's course, they do get into the status mode, and yeah, it is that way. But each state is different out here, like if you go to the south of India, a lot of them think money is evil. They believe they can't talk about money. And I mean, so these are the things I started learning after I got aware of money script. Till then, I was more towards, the financial product knowledge part of it, if I say so. But I didn't realize the emotional part involved, because for me, I had got into the decision taking at a very young age. I didn't realize that women in India struggle with that decision taking, because of various reasons. A, they were not being asked to be involved in the financial decision taking. B, it was just assumed that it's evil to talk about. There was a certain level of stigma in talking about money. So I get your surprise, and I'm surprised that in the US, I thought you all obviously gave far more importance to financial education.
yeah, it's, money's talked about a lot, but not our money, not personal money. And, um, and oftentimes parents, they weren't taught. So there's nothing really for them to pass on to their kids. Of course, as you mentioned, all parents pass on money scripts or generational beliefs about money in some form or fashion. But you came from a geographical location in India that I'm going to assume is probably one of the more open around money, because you were saying all of your friends at 21 were all talking about finance.
He did. He did.
Right? Yeah.
He did.
So, what an environment to grow up in that had where money was talked about. And you were saying that men are assumed, if I got this right, men are assumed to know about money.
Yes.
And in many families, it's not talked about or even taught. You're just supposed to know.
Right.
And so many men struggle with money because the projection is, I assume, well, you're a man. You should know everything there is about money and start making decisions.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so that kind of brings us up to when you came across Partha, and it was the
Mhm.
beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
And so what's changed for you in the last 3 years as you've looked at this flip side of money, what we think, feel, and believe about money, the emotional side of money?
Um, so in Partha's course, when I got introduced to Money Script, I think the very first thing that happened was I had not even applied or applied my mind or thought in the direction of money scripts. Like what are my belief system? I've never even given it a thought. That why I take a certain decision the way I take. Why do okay, I'll tell you about this one exercise we did where uh, we all were asked a question like, has it ever happened that you've bought something new and then you're repenting that, oh God, I shouldn't have spent this money? That regret, has that ever happened to you? And I think in the group, I was the only one who said that I have regretted not buying things, never buying things, because saving was got into me so deeply that if I had to choose between taking a luxurious item against saving, I'll be like, I want to save this. And if I make money out of that and then my capital grows, then I'll go buy it. You getting me? So that's how I functioned for years. And
I'm
that's why I've
I'm
never looked
guessing
at
in
it.
the four money script areas, you would be money vigilant.
Yes. I'm a mixture actually. I've noticed that. But initially I was vigilant. Let me correct myself. After getting more conscious, I realized that there are certain changes I do need to get, and I've worked on it.
Right.
So so that's I think that's what happens when you are a little more conscious. When I was introduced to money script, I got more conscious about how I was functioning. And once that happened to me, I became uh it was kind of fun. I was like, I can decide what I want to be. I can't stick to a strong belief system. If I think in the need of art today, be some, another form of money script, I want to change it or shift it, I can always do that. So that was fun. And of course, I have to mention this, what happened to me in your workshop at the FP retreat last year. The money exercise that you made me do, oh, it was an amazing experience where I, as I mentioned that, I went through a very tough time. So I had certain issues asking for money. If someone would ask me for money and if I had to pay that person, I would easily give, but I would never ask for money. And that actually hampers if a lot of time, because when you're dealing with your clients, you have to ask for money. If I'm not able to do that, it doesn't work.
So let
Um,
me
and
set
I
that
find,
up a little bit. Is Chaitali came to the FPA retreat, and I was doing what I call the real money exercise, where we use real money in a series of different exercises. And I don't know that I've ever talked about that exercise on the podcast. And so we won't tell you all of the exercises, but one of the exercises is where there may have been 6 people at your table or 8 people, where each person had the opportunity to ask anybody, any or all or none of the people there in their group for money. And if I remember right, Shatali, you are the first international monetist in this exercise, because I think you had a combination of rupees, euros, and dollars.
yes,
So
yes, indeed.
go ahead. You can pick it up from there, because this is a great story.
Yes, so I had a major issue asking for money, and on that table, I had already been introduced to the money script, and I knew what my belief system was, and I knew how I operated. That's the first time ever that I started consciously choosing the money belief that I wanted to have. And that's when I decided I have never asked for money and I'm going to ask for money this time. And I asked for the largest bill that was there on the table. And I had all the eyes rolling at me because they all were like, how can you ask for a $20 bill? And I was like, I have to ask. I wanted to ask. So I did ask. And uh, uh, yeah, that's the starting point for me. And after that, when I came back to India and when I got a
And did they
project
give you
on,
the money when you asked?
they did. That was the exercise. I got the money.
Because of course, sometimes people don't understand that they have the power to say no.
I know.
Many people often think, well, if I was asked, then I have to comply. So they gave you the money, and
Yes,
then
I did get the money.
you let. Did you leave with the $20?
Well, I kind of gave away all that I had before. So, yeah.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
you gave it all away, but still something very profound happened from that experience to you.
Yes, indeed. And that's what I was about to share. That when I came back to India and I was getting a project on hand, I demanded for a higher payback than what I was being offered. And I think that happened, something shift in your workshop. And I think I've shared this with you earlier also, that it's about being conscious of your money scripts and money belief system, that you can work on it individually if you get to that conscious level and turn it around. And I think I asked for more money when I was getting a project and my client gave it to me. So
I've got to set this up uh, from my end, because I get I think it was an email from you,
yes.
and it was, Rick, I must talk to you. I've got to talk to you. And I'm like, oh my, what's going on? What's happening? I must talk to you. So we set up a time to talk, and Chaitali was a little more animated than she was right now. She, she was like, oh, it's really true. You can change your money scripts. And so, as Chaitali said, she was talking about this project where she was quoted so much for doing the project. And she asked for approximately 50% more than she was offered and got it.
Yes, indeed.
So how was that for you when they said yes? I mean, how was that for you to ask? A tremendous amount of courage. And I'm really struck at the deep shift that happened in that seemingly innocent or
Indeed.
simple exercise, right? This went deep.
Yeah, yeah. I think the animated reaction that I had, as Rick mentioned, was because it was a major breakthrough for me, okay? Because I have been very good with making money out of money, but when it comes to asking money, as I shared earlier, I always face certain resistance, and suddenly that got wiped off, just disappeared. And I wondered when my client said a yes, I was like, what just happened? And then I was just trying to put things together, and I realized it happened way back in your workshop because that's the first time I asked for the money without hesitation, very consciously, with a clear mind. And and that's why the animated reaction. So yeah, it was a major breakthrough and a life-changing experience. To be able, I've always been confident of making money out of money, but to be able to demand for your worth and for your um, the contribution that you are doing to a project is another aspect for me, which I was struggling, if I can say so. And yeah, that's what it was for me. So it was an amazing breakthrough for me.
That is so impactful to me because I've done that particular workshop many times over the years, and rarely do I hear any feedback from it, right? And I do work with a lot of my clients are um, my financial therapy clients are therapists, and they struggle with setting their fee, with asking for more money, and it's not uncommon that I've helped a person work through their money scripts to where I'm thinking of one, raising their fee by 50, 60%, almost the same that you did, is fairly common. Once we have that interior shift around the emotional impact of whatever those money scripts are. I don't deserve more money. It's not polite to ask for more money. I'll get fired or rejected if I ask for more money. I mean, all of those things. And so, what a beautiful story.
Yes, indeed. It
Um,
was an amazing experience.
yeah. So, what's next for you, Chaitali? We have a few minutes left.
So, the next thing for me is what I'm looking at is, and what I've already started doing in India is financial coaching for women. Um, because a lot of women around me in cities like Mumbai are very well educated. They've done their MBA in finance, or they've done their chartered accountancy or CFA. But somehow, when it comes to the financial decision taking, they are not that independent. And that's where I realized that for me, it has been the situation that got me into taking decision. But partly it's because of the emotional reasoning behind them not being able to independently take the decision. And that's where I realized that my certificate course that I've done in coaching is where I can be a great help to them. And of course, then, I mean, as I traveled and I got to know about financial therapy, and, I'm pretty curious about that too. So let's see what next comes. But as of now, it's definitely financial coaching. And in the field of finance, I do want more women to take their financial decisions independently, and I would love to help them in whatever way I can.
Well, you are the person with the experience to help them do that. We've
Thank
we can only take a client as far as we've taken ourselves,
you. That's
and
right.
you've done that work and are a a model, a mentor, someone. I mean, it's so powerful when you have someone teaching something that has done it. It's not theoretical. It's not academic. You have done this, and you've also started down this path of looking at the interior side of money. So that's a beautiful thing to be able to impart to people. That yes, and not to say that you've arrived, because none of us have arrived, right? just
Right.
just ask my staff.
Yes.
They'll tell you, yeah, I don't think Rick's quite left the station yet, much less arrived. But that's just a beautiful thing. So, Shatali, it's just been a delight to have you on the podcast. It's been more of a delight to get to know you and your journey, and I'm just looking forward to having a conversation with you again down the road and see what has shifted. So,
It was a pleasure being on your podcast, and thank you so much for inviting me and hearing it out from me.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you, and we will talk with everyone again next week. Take care.